When she said, "Do what it takes," did she ever imagine how many would take it as a call to violence? And when the line was crossed, would words alone be enough to extinguish the flames? It all began as a small but passionate gathering, just a few dozen activists standing outside Tesla's sprawling Nevada gigafactory, their handmade signs bobbing in the dry desert wind. Their chants about unfair wages and environmental violations were familiar, the kind of protest that usually earned a brief mention on local news before fading into obscurity. But this time was different. Within days, the demonstrations metastasized, with terrifying speed, first to Buffalo, where protesters blocked delivery trucks with their bodies, then to Reno and Austin, where crowds swelled into the hundreds. The turning point came in Carson City, when a masked figure scaled the roof of a Tesla showroom and rained down balloons filled with thick red paint, screaming about corporate blood money as security guards scrambled below. The footage, dramatic and unsettling, spread like a virus, but the real explosion came when Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, already a progressive firebrand known for her unapologetic rhetoric, stood before a bank of microphones outside the Capitol and uttered the phrase that would define the chaos to come. "It's time to do what it takes to shut it down." The clip was incendiary in its simplicity. Conservatives seized on it as proof of left-wing radicalism, while progressives debated whether she had crossed a line or simply voiced what many were thinking. But in the feverish online ecosystems where activism and aggression blurred, her words took on a life of their own. Memes spliced her speech with footage of burning buildings. Hashtags like "do what it take" and "shut it down" trended for days. And then, just as the media cycle began to move on, the Savannah fire erupted. A Tesla supercharger station engulfed in flames, 3 vehicles reduced to smoldering husks, and a backpack left nearby, its "turn up the heat" sticker a grotesque echo of Crockett's own campaign slogans. Suddenly, the question wasn't whether her words had consequences. It was whether she'd ever meant for them to go this far. And while pundits screamed and politicians postured, one woman watched in silence, her sharp legal mind already dissecting the situation with terrifying precision. Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General turned legal commentator, wasn't interested in outrage. She was interested in accountability. And she was about to flip the script on everyone. How a prosecutor played the long game for weeks, Jasmine Crockett stood defiant. Media appearances, fundraising emails, fiery tweets. She doubled down at every turn, framing herself as a warrior for justice under siege by corporate apologists. "I didn't tell anyone to start fires," she snapped during a combative MSNBC interview, her voice dripping with exasperation. "I called for accountability. If people take that further, that's on them." But her refusal to explicitly condemn the escalating violence or to distance herself from the militant factions of the protest movement left a gaping hole in her defense. Meanwhile, her online supporters grew more brazen, flooding social media with memes that glorified the arson as revolutionary action. One particularly chilling post, circulated in encrypted activist chats, overlaid Crockett's face onto an image of a Molotov cocktail with the caption, "She lights the match. We strike." While Crockett's team dismissed these as the work of overzealous fringe elements, Pam Bondi was already moving. Operating out of a nondescript office in Clearwater, with a small team of trusted investigators, she began piecing together a mosaic of digital breadcrumbs, leaked Telegram chats, where activists dissected Crockett's speeches like battle plans, emails between her congressional staff and protest organizers with carefully worded but damning phrases like, "keep it messy but legal." Most damning of all was a since-deleted post from a radical subgroup called People Against Corporate Tyranny, PACT, which had tagged Crockett's official account the day before the Savannah fire with a video titled, "Direct Action Guide, How to Make Them Listen." Crockett hadn't responded, but she had retweeted another packed message hours later. "The time for patience is over." None of it was a smoking gun, not legally anyway. But Bondi wasn't building a criminal case. She was constructing a narrative, And when she finally stepped into the spotlight, her press conference was a masterclass in restraint. No hysterics, no partisan mudslinging, just a calm, methodical presentation of Crockett's words, alongside footage of burning cars, leaked messages, and a timeline that traced the escalation from protest to arson. "This isn't about politics," she said, her voice steady. "It's about what happens when leaders forget that words are weapons, when they speak in absolutes, do what it takes, without considering who might take it too far." The effect was devastating. By refusing to attack Crockett directly, Bondi made the Congresswoman's subsequent meltdown all the more damning. Crockett's allies expected a fight, a defamation lawsuit, a counter-press conference, something to rally the base. Instead, they got hesitation. A disastrous interview on a Dallas morning show exposed the cracks in her armor. When the host, known for softball questions, abruptly pivoted to ask, "Do you feel any responsibility for the violence carried out in your name?" Crockett froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough for the moment to turn awkward. "I don't control what people do," she finally said, but her usual fire was gone, her cadence uncertain. The host pressed, "But your words were quoted verbatim in a manifesto linked to the Macon arson. Doesn't that suggest they saw you as a leader of this movement?" The clip, stripped of context and blasted across social media, made her look evasive. Worse, it made her look guilty. Within days, the dominoes began to fall. Major donors quietly paused contributions. Staffers handed in resignations, some citing ethical concerns in hushed exit interviews. Even her staunchest media allies distanced themselves, their once effusive praise replaced with tepid statements about complexities and nuance. By the time the Macon arson investigation revealed that one of the suspects had a screenshot of Crockett's "do what it takes" tweet saved to their phone, the narrative had solidified. She wasn't a martyr. She was a liability, and Bondi? She never gloated. She didn't give triumphant interviews or pen op-eds. She simply returned to her work, the quiet satisfaction of a prosecutor who'd secured a conviction without ever stepping into a courtroom. The lesson was clear. In the digital age, influence isn't just about what you say. It's about what happens when the wrong people listen. Who's next? Let's be clear. Crockett wasn't wrong to fight Tesla's labor practices. The grievances were real, the cause just. But when she framed the battle in apocalyptic terms, "do what it takes," did she ever pause to consider who might interpret that as permission to escalate? And more chillingly, how many other leaders, right now, are one viral soundbite away from their own downfall? We live in an era where rhetoric spreads faster than fact, where movements can radicalize in the space of a tweet. Crockett's story isn't just about her. It's a warning. Because the next time this happens, it might not be a progressive firebrand in the crosshairs. It might be a conservative railing against the deep state, or a CEO vowing to crush the competition. The ideology doesn't matter. The outcome does. Should leaders be held legally accountable when their rhetoric inspires violence? Or is that a slippery slope to censorship? Want more deep dives on power, accountability, and the hidden forces shaping our world? Subscribe for the next explosive investigation, because the next domino could fall any time.